Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I'm proud to offer premium wireless for just $15 a month. And I'm proud that we have thousands of 5-star reviews from customers like Dan D. in New York, who writes, "I am satisfied customer. How can this only be $15? He wrote it in all caps. I needed you to feel it, like he feels it. I hope I did that justice, Dan. And I hope that you try Mint too at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months required. New subscribers only. Renew for 12 months to lock in savings. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See mintmobile.com.
7 things you don't really need to know, but probably should. I'm Ciara Revin, and this is the Sunday 7.
On this week's award-winning Sunday 7, we learn more about what King Charles may face after his cancer diagnosis, why NASA is launching a satellite to study the Earth, what's going on with Chicken Shit River, and a unique way to celebrate your ex and improve the lives of cats. But first, February the 11th is International Day of Women and Girls in Science, and we'd like to salute the women, scientists and pioneers who've contributed to the wonderful wealth of knowledge and technology we enjoy today. There remains a significant gender gap in STEM subjects, and by saluting and supporting women in science, hopefully we can collectively encourage more women to take on the challenge and step into the laboratory. The nation was shocked this week by the announcement that King Charles has been treated for cancer. The diagnosis followed his recent hospital visit where he was treated for an enlarged prostate. But while there has been no clarification on what type of cancer he has, we've been told it's not prostate related. The week saw a flurry of stories about His Majesty, who has stepped back from his public duties but will continue in his constitutional role. He also had a flying visit from Prince Harry, which caused a tabloid frenzy. The decision to speak publicly about his cancer has been seen as a positive move, and Professor David Sebag Montefiore, a cancer specialist, says it's important that people can talk openly about the disease.
I think raising awareness of cancer is tremendously important, and I think it is fantastic that the King has taken the view that he wants to share this information, and I think it sends out a very positive message around the fact that cancer is no longer a taboo. It's an increasingly common disease. It's increasingly incredibly treatable, particularly when it's diagnosed early.
The King has already begun treatment for his cancer, but it's not clear what that might involve. If it's chemotherapy, it's quite likely that His Majesty may soon be sporting quite a different look. Consultant urologist Dr. Rajesh Nair says if the cancer is bladder related, which would be logical given that it was diagnosed while receiving prostate treatment, then chemotherapy may well be part of the treatment mix.
Not all chemotherapy results in hair loss. There are chemotherapies that can be given directly into the bladder, which won't give you any sort of side effects, such as hair loss. There are chemotherapy agents which are given through the veins, which can do. It all depends on the regime of treatment that he has, and I'm sure his doctors are going to be very specialist in terms of that particular area.
Professor Sir Michael Marmot is a professor in epidemiology at University College London and also director of the UCL Institute of Health Equity. He says that because the King is wealthy and well looked after, he has a far better chance of a good health outcome than someone who was diagnosed in a deprived area.
What we know is the improvement in health in the UK, measured by life expectancy, was slower than in any other rich country except the United States. And there was a growth in inequalities. The more deprived the area, the higher the mortality, the shorter the life expectancy. And in fact, in the most deprived areas, life expectancy went down.
If you're on TikTok, you'll have come across terms such as loud budgeting, orange peel theory, and maybe girl dinners. If you're not on TikTok, it may all sound like nonsense. But several of these micro trends from TikTok have escaped into the real world and gone briefly viral. Remember Goblin Mode and e-girls? So what is going on TikTok, and why are creators trying so hard to bend language? There's only one guru Guyot that we'd like to meme think the social sausage, and that's our very own Will Guyot. So Will, has TikTok lost its mind, or what are the creators up to?
Once upon a time, creators would have been happy sharing recipe ideas, crap financial advice, or even dieting tips. But in 2024, it looks like to be the real deal, you've got to start making up your own words in the hope they go viral. That sounds like a load of old codballs to me. That said, it probably is the modern version of us lads in Wiltshire talking about things being girt big or Mackie back in the early 90s. The fact that phrases like doom scrolling and catfishing come from the pros, it now seems that TikTokers believe the ultimate way to get known online is to literally create your own language, just like the person who came up with On Fleek almost a decade ago on the long-forgotten Vine.
What's your favourite one you've come across and what does it mean?
Well, currently I'm liking polyworking because I'm hustling multiple jobs in 2024, but at the same time, I really hope my inability to pronounce words with TH in them is not too big a beige flag for you.
We'll hear later about Meta's oversight board and their concern about AI videos in an election year, but Iran have taken AI and deepfake videos to a new level. What went on in the UAE?
The fake newsreader showed unverified footage claiming to show injured Palestinians and the dead from Israeli attacks in Gaza, and according to experts at Microsoft who investigated the hack, it also reached viewers in Canada and the UK too. As these techniques improve, this is going to become an even bigger risk, and many of us are still likely to believe what we see on the TV more than some of the tuck we see that gets pumped out on social media these days.
And now the FCC has taken action against AI election interference too.
Just weeks after an AI-generated President Biden called voters and asked them to avoid the presidential primary in New Hampshire, the FCC in the US have now made these calls illegal. Now this gives the state power to prosecute anybody using these robocalls, particularly in the world of AI. This is following a huge rise in the use of voices from celebrities and politicians being used in these spam calls. 2 companies in Texas were found to have made somewhere between 5,000 and 25,000 fake Biden calls and will literally get the book thrown at them as a result. Meanwhile, despite politicians in the UK saying that they're worried about deepfakes, it's still not illegal to use them in this way.
Still to come on the Sunday 7, we take a dip in Chicken Shit River and catch up with NASA's new PACE satellite. Environmental campaigners have become so frustrated with the level of pollution in England's rivers that they've launched a court action against the Environment Agency. They're particularly concerned about the state of the River Wye and why it's had its status downgraded to unfavourable, in part because of the number of chicken farms in its catchment area, which is seriously affecting water quality. Former 80s popstar and passionate campaigner for Britain's rivers, Fergal Sharkey, is the head of River Action, and he spoke to the BBC outside the court.
Every single river in England is polluted, and the largest source of that pollution is agriculture, followed promptly by the water industry. And between those two industries, we're looking at estimates between 70 to 90% of all river pollution in England, so it's a huge issue. This particular case, the Wye is one of the most legally protected rivers in the whole of Western Europe. It's a site of special scientific interest, special area of conservation. It should be in meticulous condition. It's absolutely failing. It's falling off a cliff, as has been witnessed over the last couple of summers. People can now see algae blooms, the river physically turning green and toxic, 3, 4, 5 miles long. The river is declining. It's in the age of collapse.
Angela Jones is a wild swimmer and clean water campaigner, and she says she's seen the decline up close.
I've been swimming this river for over 40 years. It's my office and my playground. And I spend a lot of time below the surface where I monitor and enjoy the aquatic life. And now, visibility, the taste, the slurry on the stones on the riverbed, it's absolutely close to ecological collapse. I don't recognise it anymore.
NASA has been incredibly busy recently between the space station, Mars rover, the Artemis program and even their own streaming service. Well, this week saw them launch a slightly different project focused not on outer space but actually on planet Earth. The PACE satellite took off on Thursday from Cape Canaveral on a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket and has been deployed on a 3-year mission to study Earth and its environment. Dr. Anna Windle is a Science Associate Administrator working on the PACE project, and she explains why it's so important.
PACE is a satellite mission, stands for Plankton Aerosol Cloud Ocean Ecosystem. So it will have instruments that will measure both the ocean and atmosphere and the land at the same time, which has really never been done before. So measuring the atmosphere and ocean at the same time is important. They're directly related and they have complex relationships that PACE will measure for the first time. And I am a postdoc on the NASA PACE team, and I'm working on developing methods to drive phytoplankton, the P in PACE. They're the microscopic organisms in the ocean. They photosynthesize, so they take up CO2, release oxygen, so they're super important. They make up nearly 50% of the oxygen we all breathe. So I'm developing methods to discern the different phytoplankton types from the pastes.
Still to come on the Sunday 7, how to get your ex the snip, and a tough week at Meta for Mark Zuckerberg.
Right after this. Welcome back.
Two groups of patients who've been waiting for compensation for their conditions finally got some support with the release of a report by the Patient Safety Commissioner this week. Those affected by two distinct medical products have previously had calls for a financial scheme rejected, but Patient Safety Commissioner for England Henrietta Hughes says that at least £500 million will be needed to deal with the matter, which is causing immense anxiety for those affected. The first group is epilepsy patients who took a drug called valproate, which had serious effects on the children born to women using the drug. It caused a range of symptoms including facial dysmorphism, developmental delay and autism amongst other symptoms. The Commissioner estimates that those suffering from valproate syndrome could receive an initial payment of at least £100,000 each. The second patient group is women who had pelvic mesh implants intended to support their internal organs after childbirth or a hysterectomy. However, the mesh caused disabilities and injuries as it cut into internal organs and nerves. An estimated 10,000 women are affected and they should receive an initial £10,000 according to the Commissioner. Dr Henrietta Hughes told Radio 4's Today programme that the delay is unacceptable.
The ministers have had the information since October, and I've made recommendations in conjunction with officials, and I really hope that this is now taken on board. I've said that we need to have the interim scheme set up and with payouts being made in 2025. The patients have been speaking up about this for years or even decades, and it's time that the government gets on with it.
Karen Buck is one of the campaigners for compensation for those affected by the syndrome.
I've been fighting this for many years, along with many families in different countries as well, because this is worldwide. This is not just like a small part of the world, you know. You've got families all over the world, and the damage is so bad. You've not just got autistic children, you've got paralysed brain damaged children. You've got children that have actually passed away. You've got mothers that may have passed away and their children have been put in respite and been forgotten about. This is a dangerous drug.
Mark Zuckerberg has had a tough couple of weeks. First, he's had to watch Apple blow its Oculus headset out of the water with the Vision Pro. Then he and 4 other big tech CEOs were hauled in front of the US Senate for a hearing on kids and internet safety. That hearing went viral for the hysterical questioning of the TikTok CEO. But Mark had a pretty tough time coming under fire from 2 Republican senators, Lindsey Graham and Tom Cotton.
Would you like to apologise for what you've done to these good people?
I'm sorry for everything that you've all been through. It's terrible. No one should have to go through the things that your families have suffered. And this is why we invested so much and are going to continue doing industry-leading efforts to make sure that no one has to go through the types of things that your families have had to suffer.
That wasn't the end of it though, as a fake video of US President Joe Biden on the Meta platform has sparked a row about how the tech giant treats AI content. Meta's oversight board has described the company's manipulated media policy as incoherent and strongly suggested that in an election year it needs to be urgently updated. Former Danish PM Helle Thorning-Schmidt, the co-chair of the Meta oversight board, says it's too focused on video and AI content and not clever editing.
Their policies as they stand currently does not make a whole lot of sense, because what it basically does is bans videos of people saying things they did not say, but it doesn't ban posts of someone doing something they didn't do. It applies to video, but it doesn't apply to audio, and it only applies to content which is altered by artificial intelligence. And what we're saying to Meta here is that they should tighten this policy and make it simpler.
Valentine's Day is fast approaching, and while some people are happy and romantically inclined, not everyone is in a happy place on February 14th. And if you've ever harboured dark thoughts about an ex, this could be your chance to act on it in a socially responsible and scientifically justifiable way. A New Jersey cat shelter has launched a scheme called Neuter Your Ex, where for a $50 donation you can nominate the name of anyone who you still have residual anger issues with. Ken Sironaski from the Homeward Bound Pet Adoption Shelter says it really is for a good cause.
This campaign it's clever, it's funny, but it's also going to just make an incredible difference because we're going to have this fund that we can use to spay and neuter community cats, and it's just, one example of us all working together to solve these problems.
And if your ex just isn't worth $50, then there's a similar and cheaper scheme running at the All Kind Animal Initiative in Texas.
Have you ever wanted to give your ex a little treat? Well, now you can. For just $25, we'll spay or neuter a cat from our community cat program, and we'll name it after your ex. Steven.
Why cry over spilled milk when you can laugh about your neutered exes?
Melissa. Let's face it, relationships can be tough, but this campaign makes it all worth it. You're not just neutering your ex, you're helping us create a community where every cat has a chance for a happy and healthy life. Jonathan.
This has been the Sunday 7. Wherever you're listening, do us a favour and hit the follow button. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. with the regular Smart 7. Have a great rest of your weekend.